All right. Well, thanks for coming out on such a cold day, but I suppose it's cold all the time in winter here anyway. There was some sun this... We left Cape Town at 40 degrees. We were having a heat wave there. Laura did ask me to speak on healthy kids, and she said there's quite a mixed couple of people. Some have got little babies, and some have got big grown-up children. So I'm going to make it quite a bit of a general talk. Is there something that I've got that you need, Mark? No? Okay. But I thought what I'd do is just take a look at really some of the problem areas in our diets with children and with adults, and the things we should be covering in our diets, because I think there's a lot of information overload when it comes to diet. You know, high protein, low protein, vitamin supplements, not vitamin supplements. I mean, it's just, you know, barley grass, wheatgrass, spirulina. It's just, there's so much stuff, and eventually I think most people feel overloaded. They just take a vitamin supplement and hope for the best, and kind of just... But if you have some guidelines in place, then you can actually make better choices, and you can also discern when people are bombarding you with information. You can say, hold on a second, that doesn't make sense. We tend to get a little bit intimidated by what people tell us about diet because we assume that they always know more than we do about our own bodies. So sometimes you actually need to say to people, what you're saying doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I must be very thick. I mean, I've actually said to people, I'm sorry, but I must be very, very slow. I don't actually, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. And then when they try and explain it, there is usually no sense in it. They're really just trying to sell me something. So I've just jotted down a couple of notes just specifically for this talk because I just thought it was just a little bit of a different slant. And anyway, I've been doing so many of the same talks around here, I thought I want to just do a little bit different. So I thought what we'd look at is children's diets. When we look at them, we say, well, what end do I start with my child? What? Back end, you're quite right. And then May, in the first place, she looks in the nappy. There's the nappy. Okay. But from a dietary perspective, which end do you start, okay? So I think we've got to look at it and say, firstly, number one, we know that the right diet should be able to feed our children's brains. We should be putting nutrients into our body that feed our children's brains. And when we look at the nutrients that are required for the brain, there are a lot of, I mean, it's very broad, but there are two nutrients that are neglected, not only with children, but with adults as well. And it's one of the reasons why when you go out on the roads, you'll sit behind somebody and you'll think, is your brain not working? And it probably isn't, because these two nutrients are lacking in most people's diets. And we don't really see them as nutrients. In fact, we tend to think that they're not even food. We always think nutrients are vitamins and minerals, you know, it's vitamin C and your calcium, and that's what we think we've got to be getting. But we neglect the two very essential nutrients that are needed for the brain. Number one is glucose. The brain can't work without it. 60 to 80% of the food you put into your mouth should break down to glucose. Now that doesn't mean refined white sugar, obviously, but we're talking about natural carbohydrates as in fresh fruits, natural grains, whole potatoes. The poor old potatoes got such a bad rap lately because of the glycemic index and the glycemic load. The quickest way to slow down the glycemic index of any food is to just add some fat to that food, which gets me to the second nutrient, which is fats. The two nutrients you're not getting enough of is glucose and essential fatty acids. Your brain can't work with either of those. And if you are operating in a situation where you're getting the wrong kind of glucose and the wrong kind of fats, you're going to find you fuzzy-headed, you feel like you've got cotton wool in it, you're probably spaced out, you're forgetful. My mother calls it, she's suffering from old-timers disease. She's actually joking. She's in her late 70s and she's actually got a sharp brain. It's sharper now than when she was younger because she's changed her diet. But we start to think that it's normal to start forgetting things because we're getting older. We think that it's normal to have a mushy brain because we're a mother. We think it's normal to just not be able to figure things out. And I had somebody this morning say to me, so has your brain always been so sharp? She says to me, she was at the talk last night. And I said, what do you mean? She says, no, if you've got all that information, you've got to have a really sharp brain. So I said, well, no, actually my brain hasn't always been like this. I always battled to concentrate. My school report said I stared out the window and I daydreamed and I talked too much, and I couldn't remember anything. I mean, I couldn't remember people's names. I couldn't remember what day of the week it was. And the way I got through school was to go home and just like have to really, really study and be focused. Because I just didn't have the ability to concentrate for very long periods of time. At least at home, I could break my concentration, go somewhere and come back and carry on studying. But now I can find I can study, I can concentrate, I can be very focused for hours, days on end. I once sat down to write a portion of my natural health course. And for 8 hours, I literally didn't move other than go to the loo, drink water. I don't even think I ate. I was just completely focused. My brain was never able to do that before. So when you start feeding your brain the right nutrients, you find it starts to work. We find when the diet's very alkaline forming, and I'll explain later on what that means, when it's very alkaline forming, the IQ, it was tests done by the British Medical Association here, Medical Research Association. Caroline Ray was one of the researchers, and she found in the studies they'd done that children had a more alkaline environment around the brain, in the brain, had higher IQs. So you do find once your diet is more alkaline forming, that brain works more efficiently. So we're needing glucose, we're needing fats, we need an alkaline forming diet, and I'll explain a little bit more about the kinds of fats and the kind of glucose, okay? Then we need to make sure that we've got the right nutrients to feed the immune system. In children, we want children with a healthy immune system. In adults, we want a healthy immune system as well. What are the right kind of nutrients? Those are, obviously, we've heard of them, antioxidants. The big mistake we make is we go and have a multivitamin and we just think we're going to get all our antioxidants in that. What you're getting in it is, yes, vitamins, but in what we call an inorganic form. It's not attached to a carbon molecule. And when vitamins and minerals are not attached to a carbon molecule, you can't use much more than 4 to 10% if you're lucky. Now what that means is 90 to 96% has been excreted via the kidneys straight into the toilet. So what you're doing is making very, very expensive urine. And if you've ever taken vitamin supplements, you know your urine gets that strong smell and that strong color because it's just going straight into the toilet. Where do you get your antioxidants from in the right way, where it's bonded? How do you get it bonded to a carbon molecule to fully be able to use it? There's only one way. It's a process called photosynthesis. Remember you learned that from school. The sun shines on the plant, photosynthesis takes place, it bonds, and then you can use 80 to 100%. So the best kind of nutrients that we actually need in the body are ones that we find in fresh fruits and vegetables. And if you feel the need for extra nutrition, your best source of extra nutrition is to go and get yourself a good juice extractor, have green vegetable juice, have orange vegetable or fruit juice, and red fruit or vegetables. Those are the 3 colors we need to make sure we're covering. And if you're going to do that, plus some essential fatty acids, natural fats in your diet, you're probably going to make sure you're getting all the nutrients you need. You need antioxidants for the immune system, you also need essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are fats that we find that grow on trees in a natural environment. What is naturally high in fat that grows on a tree? Avocado, yeah. Avocado, raw nuts and seeds. Olives. You don't have to eat avos if you don't like them, by the way. If you don't like avos, you can eat a quarter to half a cup of nuts or seeds a day. If you don't, it's 1 to 3 avos, a quarter to half a cup of nuts or seeds, 5 to 10 olives, 1 to 3 tablespoons of cold pressed oils, 2 to 6 sweet corn mealies. I can say mealies because we've got a whole lot of South African sweet corn. I should say sweet corn on the cob, okay? I've got to get used to this. The Americans don't know what a mealie is either, and I'm going there tomorrow. So we need to make sure we're getting the essential fatty acids. We get lots of what's called omega-3 in all the foods I've just mentioned. We get omega-6 we get from all the veggies, all the fruit and veggies I've just mentioned, and the nuts and seeds. We get it abundantly from your nuts, your seeds, your cold pressed oils. What you get from where you find omega-3 is mainly in flaxseed, hemp seed, and in the oil. When you eat the seed, it just passes straight through the body, and in your dark green leafy vegetables. So dark green leafy vegetables, flaxseed and hemp seed is what's going to provide you with enough omega-3. I like to take a flax blend. The blend I take is flax, olive oil, sesame and sunflower in the right balance to make sure I'm getting the right omega-3s to omega-6s. Then I don't have to think about it, okay? I'll come back to the fats just now. All right, then we need to have a diet that will calm our emotions. We don't want a diet that's going to make us a crazy person. Now, we laugh about that because I think every woman has had a couple of crazy episodes in her lifetime. Today. And I certainly did in my life. I suffered from terrible mood swings. I was finally diagnosed as being manic depressive and told that I had a chemical imbalance of the brain and had to live on lithium for the rest of my life. Having grown up in a family where if you got sick in our family, the first thing my mother would say is, have you had a bowel movement today? The second thing she'd say is, how much water did you drink today? And you'd have to go and drink water. And the third thing she'd say is, I think you need to go and sleep. And that was all you got in our house. She kept milk of magnesia and plasters in the house. She was really anti-medication. I think she had a hypochondriac sister, so she went the other way. And so having done that and grown up in a home like that, if I had a health problem, the first question I asked was, have I had a bowel movement? Did I drink some water? No, I didn't actually ask those questions, but what I would ask was, what has caused this problem? Why do I have the chemical imbalance? Not what can I take? And the way we've kind of been educated today is not to ask why, just to ask what. What can I take? People always say to me, what can I take for this or this or this and the next thing? You need to change your way you think, change your mindset and start asking, what is causing the problem? My child has ear infections, tonsillitis, my husband has indigestions, I have allergies. Those are the questions I had to start asking. Why do I have these problems? I cannot be taking cortisone creams and nasal sprays for the rest of my life. My child cannot be on antibiotics. They're not suffering from a deficiency of antibiotics when a child gets a snotty nose. It's the immune system responding to something. How can we help the immune system? Very often what happens when you feel sick is you lose your appetite. If you get cough or cold or flu or anything, just a little bit of snotty nose, the first thing that starts to happen is you lose your appetite, and it happens with children as well. So the first thing that you do is try and help the immune system. That's when, as adults and children, what we did, and for the last 20 years, I have 3 daughters, 28, 26 this year, and 21, and 3.5 grandchildren. And for 20 years, we haven't had a doctor's bill due to ill health. Because the question we ask is, why do we have this problem? And the minute we have a problem, if your appetite goes, into bed, lots of rest, and lots of freshly extracted fruit juices. And then what I do is give them dark green leafy vegetable. I don't have the time or inclination to extract the juice from barley leaves because it's the most nutritious of the dark green leafy vegetables. Don't have it to do it. So what I do is I take the dried variety. I take barley light. So we up the barley light 3 times the amount, every hour on the hour if we have to, because it's actually food. It's proper food. It's not going to strain the kidneys. It's not going to redirect the energy. Very often you're going to take huge quantities of vitamin C in supplement form. The body is not designed to deal with it. And the body, instead of continuing to repair itself and get rid of all this muck that it's trying to get rid of, now redirects it on the stomach where it's trying to deal with this foreign substance, which is the vitamin C in supplement form. But if you were to give freshly extracted orange or pineapple juice or even tomato juice, you'd be getting loads of vitamin C in that in the right form. It would help to boost that immune system. So one of the best things to do when a child or an adult is sick is freshly extracted juices, stay in bed, and we keep them on a totally raw fruit and vegetable diet. Because the digestive tract does not cope with heavy foods when you're sick. It really doesn't. And we know this. If you try and force a child to eat when they're sick, they vomit. Now we think they've got some kind of gastric flu, so off we are to the doctor for the gastric flu, and it's another antibiotic or another something or other to stop the diarrhea. Meanwhile, the body's just saying, I'm not coping with jelly and custard, because it's like invalid food, you know. Jelly and custard because it's soft and your throat is sore. That's what I used to get when I had tonsillitis. I only found out years later I got tonsillitis because I was dairy intolerant, and what was in the custard but a whole bunch of milk, making the problem even worse, okay? So what we need to be doing is providing the nutrients for a healthy immune system. And for that you need loads of antioxidants, vitamins A, vitamins E, selenium, zinc, vitamin C, but not in supplement form, in fresh fruits and veggies. That's where you've got to actually up it. Very often when we're under stress, what we do is, and when our kids are under stress or if we're traveling, we eat badly. Or we go through the silly season in December and we eat really badly. And as we're starting to come out of it, or coming out of winter where we tend to eat more starchy things and more fried foods and more chocolates and more things that the body's not designed to really cope with. We tend to eat more of that, and eventually your body says, I'm not coping here. I'm going to start throwing this stuff out. And mucus pours out of every orifice in the body. It comes out of your ears, your nostrils, down the back of your throat. And need I say, ladies, in another area as well, but we won't go there, okay? You can end up having discharges all over the place because your body's just trying to clean house. And we think, we've got to stop this stuff coming out. Let's go and take a decongestant. But in fact, the best thing to do is boost the immune system. with lots of raw fruit and vegetables. They're powerful antioxidants, things like superoxide dismutase, which you find in the sprouted leaves of grains. It's another reason why I take a product like Barley Life. Because for me to go and, as I say, grow my own barley and juice it is just such a palaver, I'd rather buy it. Right, so we need to make sure, calm the emotions. The type of food that calms the emotion is food that's very high in magnesium. What is high in magnesium? We get back to fruit and veggies. Fruit and vegetables are alkaline forming in the bloodstream. I already spoke about alkaline forming diet. And what fruit and vegetables do is they leave a lot of alkaline minerals in the bloodstream. What are alkaline minerals? Magnesium, potassium, calcium, natural sodium. The acid forming minerals are sulfur and phosphorus. The foods that are very high in sulfur and phosphorus, top of the list is your processed foods, then your animal flesh, and then your dairy products. And then underneath that you'd get your processed grains would be right at the top, but your whole grains would be underneath the animal products. So it's ideal to keep, when we look at the healthiest people right around the world, what we know is 75 to 80% of the diet that you're taking in on a daily basis is alkaline forming. And that just means that the bulk of the food coming in is leaving that alkaline residue. And that not only makes your brain more efficient, we found that the children with the alkaline environment in the brain are smarter, well, they have higher IQs. It keeps you very calm. A child that follows a natural diet that is fruit and vegetable based, you don't have to be vegetarian, but it's got 75 to 80% alkaline forming. I'll tell you how to do that now, don't panic. Because people start thinking, how am I going to get all those fruit and veggies into my kids? It's very easy. 75 to 80% alkaline forming. How do we just get back? Are we talking about calming? That was what we were talking about. Oh, if I don't touch this often enough, it's like an Italian, you know. If you don't stroke it, it starts shutting down. All right. So we need those alkaline-forming nutrients in the body because particularly magnesium has a very calming effect on the body. Very calming effect. And what you do find is children that are on a high alkaline-forming diet are active but calm. It's a big difference between hyperactivity. A kid can be very active, they're crawling around, but they're calm. They can go and investigate something and sit there and calmly look at it. They'll be very busy, but calm. It's a big difference between that and the hyped up kid, okay? And I did an interview this morning, I met this mom last night. She had 2 children from her first marriage, they're sort of 13 and 14, and then she's got 3 little children on like 5, 4, and 3. And they're all boys. And she said she was actually pulling her hair out. She came to a talk I did in Chichester last November. She said the lights just went on and she said, I've got to do this. I've got nowhere else to go. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what else I'm going to do. I'm changing. And she changed the whole family. She said not only is her husband calm and happy, he used to be grumpy all the time, but she said these children are so calm. She said it's like their brains have switched on, but they're calm. And she said, I actually like my children now. She said, that's what happens is you actually start like the people you're living, like the people that you're living with. Now, when I was eating incorrectly, and one of the foods I was putting into my body that was causing these incredible mood swings wasn't having calm emotions, was that I was eating a lot of refined sugar. But I thought because I was very health conscious and only eating brown sugar, that it wasn't a problem. Making fudge with brown sugar and putting brown sugar in my cakes that I made. Refined white or brown sugar upsets your blood sugar level, pushes your blood sugar levels up. Your pancreas has to overreact to that because it's not designed to handle refined sugar. Brings your blood glucose levels down when it's supposed to be over here. So up it goes, down it comes. Up here you got loads of energy, down here you feel flat. And as you keep doing that year in and year out, if you are predisposed, if there's depression and mood swings and maybe even aggression in your family, you'll find that you're more prone to that kind of thing. So as you get older, you may find you're getting more aggressive, or you're getting more impossible, or you're getting worse premenstrual tension, because your blood sugar is now not going just down and making you feel flat, it's going right down here and you're feeling suicidal. And when it's up here, you think you can take on the entire world. And you can see that happen in some kids. You put refined sugar into them, whether it's white or brown, and whether it's 1 teaspoon or 10 teaspoons, I've seen it do the same thing. Those kids are bouncing off the walls, and you can have 3 kids. One bounces off the wall, the other one just wails all the time, and the third one just sits quietly, and their appetite is out of control because the system that controls appetite, the endocrine system, is hammered by refined sugar. And so you might find that child has no problem with the brain. They're very calm, but they're just very overweight. They have a weight problem, for example. So that's how you can all react very differently to it. But one of the things we do know is To calm the emotions, we need try and eat raw vegetables before you eat cooked meals. And the same thing with kids. What we've got here is you've got avo dips, and you've got some hummus, and you've got some tomato. What you could do is you could have some carrot sticks, cucumber sticks, and you could just plonk that on the table, and you could all snack on that before you have supper. Try and eat at least a side plate. If you've got little children, you give them a little bit of avocado before you give them their butternut or their pumpkin or whatever it is that you're feeding them. You always try and give them some raw food. If they're very little, and if they're so little that they can only eat mashed stuff, then they really should only be eating raw fruit. They really can't handle grains under the age of a year, probably even 18 months, because they don't chew efficiently. And when you don't chew properly, you can't secrete the enzyme that starts starch digestion. If you want to feed your child starches before they're able to chew, you need to chew the food for them, not blend it in the blender, because the blender doesn't have the enzymes they need. If you chew it, you get that salivary amylase that starts the first process of digestion in their mouths. So you always start with, a child under a year, it's basically breast milk or some form of milk and fresh fruit in the diet. A little bit of veggies if you want, but they really shouldn't be having starches under that age. They're getting all the carbohydrates they need from fresh fruit, by the way, which is, by the way, very alkaline forming. So you've got alkaline forming foods, one meal a day, or start all your cooked meals with raw veggies. Try and eat one fruit meal a day as much as you like, with a nice handful of nuts and seeds, and in between meals snack on fresh fruits and veggies, and I'll come back to that just now, okay? Calming emotions, refined sugar is the one thing that's not going to calm them, okay? So we need to stabilize the blood sugar. When we are craving sweet things, we're not suffering from a deficiency in chocolate. We're not suffering from a deficiency of condensed milk, which I used to drink straight out of the tin. We are not suffering from a deficiency of fizzy cold drinks or jelly babies or jelly beans. What your cells are sending a message to the brain saying, you need to put glucose in and you need to put it right now, but the right kind of glucose should stabilize your blood sugar. And there's only one kind of glucose that does that. And if you were living in the Garden of Eden and you were craving something sweet, you'd know exactly what it was. What would it be? Fresh fruit. Fresh fruit. Oh, in a natural environment, you'd know exactly what to eat. We don't live in a natural environment. We live in supermarkets and shopping malls, and your blood sugar's down, so you reach for a chocolate or a cup of coffee or tea with sugar in it. And your blood sugar's shooting up and coming down all day long. Not only are you going to upset the emotions, because your brain and central nervous system are affected, you're going to upset the hormonal system, which will also affect your emotions. You're also going to upset your immune system. Immune system cannot destroy viruses and bacteria, and the blood sugar goes up and down. So this also helps the immune system. So you find children that are prone to coughs and colds and snotty noses and allergies, when you stabilize their blood sugar, their immune system's a lot more stable. It functions more efficiently. The hormonal system's more efficient, so you're not getting so weepy and emotional, and you also find the brain and central nervous system work properly. So stabilizing the blood sugar, lots of magnesium in fruit and vegetables, alkaline forming diet, okay?
What was your third point after?
Snacking on fresh fruits and veggies in between meals. Okay. I'll tell you in a while why you need to do that, other than it being alkaline forming. All right, then we need food that provides sustained natural energy. You don't want to have loads of energy for an hour and then collapse. And you can see some kids do this, run around like mad things and collapse in a heap and just be crying and wailing. And very often that's what we're like. And we kind of lurch from cup of coffee to chocolate to keep us going right throughout the day. I mean, I have recently met, 3 or 4 young men between the ages of 21, 17 and 26, who are suffering from complete exhaustion. They can't get out of their beds. The doctors don't know what's wrong with them. They have no energy. Their muscles won't work. They go and have every kind of brain scan. The one young man is a 25-year-old tennis coach, and he had been to 3 hospitals. Every test known to man that you could do on this youngster, they could not find out what was wrong with him. So not knowing what was wrong with him, they still put him on cortisone, antidepressants, sleeping tablets, just this whole range of medication, which was making him nauseous, so they put him on something to counteract the nausea, and they put him onto something else. And this guy was just in this drugged state in the hospital, and his brother came to a talk that I did and said, please, can you help my brother? And I said, well, he told me the story. I said, well, firstly, we've got to start getting his blood sugar stable, because he told me that this youngster was living on Red Bull. Coffee, Red Bull, cold drinks, fast foods, And every single one of these youngsters that I've seen that have collapsed like this, I ask them. I had a pastor's wife phoning me from Las Vegas 2 months ago. Her 17-year-old son got a scholarship, a basketball scholarship. He can't function. His muscles don't want to work. They think he's got multiple sclerosis, but they don't know what it is. They think it's an autoimmune disease. They don't know what it is. You start getting these kids onto nutrients, the right nutrients. You get fresh fruits and vegetables into their diet. You stabilize their blood sugar, and you start getting the sustained energy. A very common problem when there's not enough sustained energy is exhausted adrenal glands. And adrenal glands are part of the hormonal system, and they have to have essential fatty acids. You always keep getting back to these essential fatty acids. You've got to have natural glucose and essential fatty acids. They're very important nutrients, and they're neglected. I mean, how many of us are even taught that glucose is actually a valid nutrient? You go into a health shop and they're trying to sell us the latest supplement. But glucose is more important than just about anything else. And the essential fatty acids. You get these people, this youngster that was in bed and couldn't get out, within 3 days he was walking. He hadn't walked for months. 2 weeks later he was driving his car, and 2 months later he was back tennis coaching, and he was so much energy that he said, I've got to find another career. Tennis coaching's not enough for me. Whereas before he was just kind of coasting along life, doing a bit of tennis coaching on the side. And now he's actually holding down 2 jobs. He said we interviewed him for one of the DVDs. He said, I have never had this kind of energy in my life. I didn't know that I was capable of being this energetic. But he said the most amazing thing is it's calm energy. Sustained blood sugar, sustained energy, okay? All right, we need a diet that encourages good sleep. Now, I know you're all going to tell me, Matt, you're feeding your babies really healthy food and they can wake up 3 times a night or 4 times a night. For goodness sake, I want you to get this if you've got little babies or you're pregnant. Get one thing into your head. Babies are designed to wake up right throughout the night. And if you want a peaceful night's sleep, stick them in your bed, put them on the boob, and yes, you're going to wake up with one flat boob and one big boob. But at the end of the day, that's the only way I managed to get sleep. And the mothers I've spoken to for the last 2 decades, the ones that get the sleep are the ones that are relaxed about it. If you insist on getting up and going to your daughter's pretty little nursery with all its bows and things because you spent thousands fixing up that bedroom and that child better sleep in that room, and she's waking up all night because she wants to cuddle you and she wants to be near somebody whose heart beats, not just near a teddy bear, then you're just going to be up all night long and you're going to be a nervous wreck. I had to get this into my daughter as well. I said, Melissa, just put her in the bed with you. Yeah, but I need time for my husband. I said, well, make time for him in the evenings. Stick the kids in their beds, not in your bed to start off, in their own beds. Then go and make time for your husband. And have a special time and light the candles and play nice music. And then go to bed and take the kids to bed with you because then you've had your special time. But if you're going to continually fight this whole system and they've got to stay out of the bedroom, you're just going to be exhausted. She's getting sleep now. And she was battling because her children are 2, 7 months, and she's pregnant with a 3rd one. So she's really got her work cut out for her. It's very normal for babies to wake up. Very, very normal. There's this obsession in the West that your baby's got to sleep through from 6 weeks. I don't know who started it. Some crazy person did. It's not natural and it's not normal. Get used to it. You're not going to have good sleep for at least the first 2 years of their lives. So lie on the bed and sleep when they're sleeping. Instead what we do is, because it's typical Western approach, let me put the baby down. Aha, baby's sleeping. I'm now going to do a million things because the baby's sleeping. Instead of saying, baby's sleeping, I'm going to go and sleep too. That's really what we should be doing. And I know you're guilty of it. It's all over your face. I can see. I got there today and the whole house was clean and the food was all met. The baby was sleeping. But if you don't pace yourself, you're going to burn yourself out, okay? So understand that even on a healthy diet, little children do wake up. They wake up because they're cold. They wake up because they want to wee. They wake up because their nappies are wet. They wake up because they're thirsty. They wake up for a variety of reasons, and eventually, if you just keep a calm environment and stop all the walking around in the middle of the night and switching on the lights, and my daughter wanted to change the nappy every time they woke up. I said, why? She said, because their nappy's wet. I said, let me tell you, babies, when they're asleep at night, don't mind their nappies being wet. And you get up in the morning and they've been feeding all night and the nappy weighs 5 kilograms. So what? They slept, you slept, you chilled.
Nappies are nice these days.
Yeah, they carry lots. In the old days, I had to have those tiling nappies, yeah. And we had the steri nappy bucket, remember that? And the linings and all of that. You know what I used to do? Put on 2 nappies at night. And lots of waterproofs. But I realized that sleep was of more value, okay? So don't panic if your child is not sleeping through and they are 18 months old, okay? If they are calm during the day and they sleep well and they have good quality sleep and they wake up happy. If your baby's always waking up grumpy, probably got low blood sugar, and probably got low blood sugar because you either got them on a formula that's got sugar in it and you give them sugar when they go to sleep. In the formula, they wake up very groggy and ratty, okay? If they wake up groggy and ratty and it's not formula you're giving them, there could be something in your diet that's affecting them if you're breastfeeding. So you just need to check out. If a baby is getting enough essential fatty acids, their blood sugar is stabilized very easily. So we need to be stabilizing the blood sugar again, okay? If we want good quality sleep, we need a stable blood sugar, okay? You need a high alkaline diet as well because that makes the baby calm enough to sleep. We also need a diet that is a foundation for good behavior. It's very difficult raising children in the world that we live in. It really is. There's so many outside influences. And I know that without God in my life, I wouldn't have managed raising my 3 daughters. They're 3 extremely strong-willed daughters. They're all bigger than me. They're scary. You walk in a shopping center behind them and they're like, 5'10 and a half, 5'11 and 6 foot tall. And they are tall and slim and they've got boobs and they've got a presence. And people kind of look at them like this. They are incredibly strong-willed, all in different areas. The first one is the boss. She wants to be everybody's boss. She wants to control everything. She wants to be organized all the time. Everything's got to be filed away in the right order. Everything's got to be clean and tidy. She's very strong-willed. The second one I thought she'll be the easygoing one. She just popped out. She's the drama queen. She loves to sing and act and create drama. She's just, wherever Marie Claire is, there is always drama. And it's exhausting. And the third one is quietly incredibly stubborn. She'll look at you and say yes, yeah, and you think she's a really quiet, sweet, easygoing, but man, can she dig her heels in and not budge at all. So 3 incredibly strong-willed kids. I know at any time when they got refined sugar and preservatives or additives in their diet, they would be the extreme worst part of them. There would be unbelievable drama with Marie Claire. Marie Claire is still like that. If she has refined sugar or alcohol, she can create abnormal drama. Go right over the top. She will slam doors, and she's the sweetest person, but when she's at sugar or alcohol, she'll swear at everybody, slam doors, and it's like she's, Mark actually said, it's like she's demon-possessed. But that's how she can behave on sugar and alcohol. And I actually interviewed her on the most recent DVD because she's now a mother herself and she's realized how her blood sugar being stable is very important, not only to her behavior, to her son's behavior. And she's now married and she's realized this is affecting, because as much as she knows this, it doesn't stop her having a couple of glasses of wine every now and again or a bit of chocolate, because she still thinks she's normal and she can do that. She's got to get to the point where she's driven enough people nuts where she actually just says, enough, I can't do this, like I had to, okay? So it needs to encourage good behavior. That's stable blood sugar, that's the right glucose, the right fats. Again, this alkaline forming diet, they all have that same effect, they're very calming, okay? And then we need a diet that protects against environmental pollutants. Things like heavy metals like mercury, lead, cadmium, and arsenic. There's one very powerful neutralizer, 2 very powerful neutralizers of heavy metals and pesticide residues. One is chlorophyll, the stuff you find in green leafy vegetables. The other one is vitamin C. The minute you start following those 3 steps that I gave you earlier on, 1 fruit meal a day, snacks, fruit and veggies in between, raw food before your cooked food, you're getting that 75% not only alkaline forming, but raw food, which means you're taking in large quantities of natural, organic vitamin C. Organic means bonded to a carbon molecule, okay? Vitamin C in its organic form is a powerful neutralizer of heavy metals. What you need for the heavy metals and the pesticide residues is chlorophyll. You need dark green leafy vegetables. If you look at every rural community, they have a very indigenous type of grass or leaf that they eat. And if any book you pick up on nutrition, doesn't matter who's written it, how conflicting the opinions are, every single nutritionist now is saying dark green leafy vegetables are one of your best sources of nutrients. You've got to have the chlorophyll for the pesticide residues and the environmental toxins, and you've got to have your dark green leafy vegetables contain more calcium, more usable calcium than any other food, more usable calcium than cow's milk, which, by the way, cow's milk actually contributes to dental decay and osteoporosis. How do I know that? Not only from published research, but if you look at the countries that have the most brittle bone disease and the most dental decay, they're the countries that consume the most cow's milk, the most yogurt, the most cheese. Countries that don't consume dairy products, like the Chinese, in rural China, not Hong Kong, don't have osteoporosis. They don't suffer from dental decay until they go and live in a westernized culture and start drinking milk. We don't get osteoporosis from lack of milk. We get it because we don't exercise, we don't get natural light. Even if there's no sunlight, you need natural light. You get osteoporosis because our diets are too high in salt, because we smoke cigarettes, because we have caffeine in our diets. There's a whole lot. There's a whole story on osteoporosis, and we've got a whole DVD on it, so I'm not going to go into that right now. All right, so our diets are generally too acid forming. If we take a look at the average westernized diet, what's a normal breakfast? Just pretend you've never read any of my books. What's a normal breakfast? Cereal, toast. What's in the cereal? Milk, sugar, all acid forming, okay? Bacon, eggs, all acid forming. What's a normal mid-morning snack or drink? Coffee, tea, acid forming. What would you snack on in the middle of the morning? Biscuits, acid forming. Normal lunch. Sandwich, acid forming. What's on the sandwich? Butter or margarine? If it's margarine, it's acid forming. If it's butter, it's neutral. If it's cheese, it's acid forming. If it's a lettuce leaf, it's neutral. If it's tomato, it's neutral. If it's a hot dog, it's acid forming. If it's a pizza, it's acid forming. Tomato is alkaline in your bloodstream. And it's alkaline, it's acid in your stomach, acid in your mouth, but alkaline in the bloodstream. It leaves behind a lot of alkaline minerals. A normal mid-afternoon snack? Chocolate. Coffee, tea, a cold drink. Oh, you're so noble. Alkaline forming, all the rest are acid forming. A normal supper, if you're South African, you're still having racevleis and aardappels, eh? Your meat and your grains are acid forming. Your meat is more acid forming than grains. Your potato is alkaline forming. And then we have some wine and dessert, all acid forming. If you look at the average normal westernized type diet, it is at least 80 to 90% acid forming. And that's the same with our children. We let them go in that direction. When you start understanding this, you understand why it's not good to give a kid bread 6 times a day, even though that's what they want. If they want pasta all day long because that's all they eat, you understand that you're not going to be feeding their emotions properly, their immune system properly, their brain properly. You're not going to be helping with environmental toxins. You're not going to be feeding them the right foods. There's not a problem with pasta if it's kept to once a day. And most children do better on gluten-free pasta. I have the corn pasta here, which I find is quite chewy. I prefer the rice noodles. The Thai rice noodles are much easier. They're kind of softer, more like a normal pasta. So the Chinese or Thai rice noodles, you could have those. Your children could have that. The important thing is to have the raw veggies beforehand. And if you're having one fruit meal with a handful of nuts or seeds, or your children are having that, and you're having salads, vegetables, and fish, or salad, vegetables, and pasta, that is and snacks in between fruit and veggies, you've got a 75 to 80% alkaline forming diet. You haven't given up the pasta, but it's not 5 times a day.
Can I just ask for this kind of life or lifestyle?
Yeah.
London, it can be quite demanding because of the commute, just
Yeah.
the pace and intensity of it. What would you suggest for some bulk? Because fruit and veg, it's great, but one does, the energy.
You need one fruit meal a day, and the way to make sure that you're getting sustained energy with it is to make sure you're having your raw nuts and seeds with it. If you're having that, it doesn't matter how stressful it is. We tend to think our bellies must feel full and bloated to be able to cope. If you had something like a cashew shake, cashew nuts, and we had it this morning with pineapples and raspberries and oranges and apple juice in it, all blended together, makes the most delicious drink. It's mainly alkaline forming. The nuts are mildly acid forming. It's got it's releasing very sustainable energy in a sense that it is the fat and the protein in the nuts is slowing down the absorption of the glucose. So it's a very nice way to do it. You can make a cashew custard and pour that over it as well. You'll have to do all of this in your kitchen, you see. You can do that. You can eat some nuts with it. That would be your best. You don't have to have your fruit for breakfast. If you feel you want to have oats for breakfast, then start with some sweeter fruit which digests better with the oats, like bananas and pawpaw. Have your oats. If you're gluten-free, have your maize meal or your, what do you get? Sorghum porridge here, maltabella, mabella. You don't, marbella. Okay. What porridges would you get? You could have millet. You can have that as a cereal. You can actually have brown rice as a porridge in the morning. It's delicious brown rice with cinnamon and honey on it, raw honey. It's delicious. Pardon?
We get lots of oats.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So you could do that, and then you could have your fruit meal for lunch if you wanted to. You may decide, I know a lot of people say they're more comfortable eating their fruit for supper. You don't have to eat it for breakfast. You can eat it at any time of the day you want to. It's just that your fruit is going to give you the sustainable, slow-release glucose with water-soluble fiber and all those antioxidants to keep all these systems in balance. And if you don't have one fruit meal a day, you tend to be looking all day for something sweet. You're just not getting enough sweet stuff. Some people say to me that they battle with the fruit meal, and I say, well, just eat lots of fruit in between meals and eat it at least before breakfast. So have a little fruit salad or a couple of bananas and then eat your normal breakfast, and in between meals try and eat fruit. Give your kids fruit for lunch at school, for example. Millie meal is gluten-free. You better, a more nutritious maize porridge would be polenta. It's made from sweet corn mealies. They're nice and bright yellow, so they've got lots of beta-carotene in them. So it is more nutritious. You make it like a porridge, yeah. You can make polenta, like the Italians do, and spread it out and make polenta pizzas. That's delicious. Or you can make it like a porridge, and you can have it sweet or savory.
Do you just have a handful of nuts?
It's 1/4 to 1/2 cup per person. If it's a child, for a day. That, I must tell you, will give you all your protein you need if you're a complete vegetarian or vegan. So you don't need to eat any other protein after that, but if you do feel the need to eat extra protein or animal protein, you shouldn't eat animal protein more than once a day. So if you're having eggs at some point in the day, you shouldn't go and have fish one meal and chicken at another meal. It's either eggs or fish or chicken, nuts and seeds. It's not a problem if you overdose on plant protein because it's not acid forming. It doesn't contain what's called arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid is an omega-6 derivative that you find in animal flesh. Your body will make as much as you need. It causes inflammation, it causes blood clotting, it causes your blood pressure to go up. And your body needs to do that at certain times, but very, very controlled. When you take arachidonic acid in animal flesh, it's just pushing up your blood pressure, it's making your blood clot more, it's causing a whole bunch of problems. And that is why when you eat a high animal flesh diet, you're more prone to heart disease. That's the main reason why we are prone to heart disease, because of that arachidonic acid that's in there. You can't take it out because then you don't have any animal flesh. So we need to keep it to a minimum of not more than once a day. If you're eating it more than once a day, you're not only standing in line for heart disease, you're standing in line for osteoporosis, arthritis, diabetes, and cancer. So it's the reason why I encourage people to not eat animal protein more than once a day. Yes?
How do you feed the nuts to babies and children, and when can you start them on?
The first year of their life, I usually try and keep nuts out of their diet. I just don't want to cause any nut allergies. I find nut allergies are usually caused when a child's been exposed to nuts with sugar, like a peanut brittle bar or a chocolate with nuts in it. Because the body sees the sugar, the immune system responds to sugar because it has such a profound effect on blood sugar levels, it panics. And it looks for the protein that came in with the sugar, and usually it's nuts. So it produces antibodies against the protein in the nuts. When a child, and it's been interesting to see that because we've tried to keep them out of the children's diets for that first year, but all my grandchildren, by the time they realize, it's like 8, 9 months old and they're starting to grab whatever's in your hand, whatever you're eating, they just want that shake. And Faith now is only 7 months old, and she was just grabbing the shake right out of our hands and wanting to drink it, and then wouldn't want to let it go. She wanted more of this stuff. So it's been interesting to watch them and see if there's been any nut allergies with them, and there's been absolutely nothing, and they eat it on a regular basis. But we make sure that it's very finely ground in a blender, the upright jug blender. You just let it blend until it's so smooth you can't feel any gritty pieces in it. Some people blend it for 5 minutes and then they stand there eating their shake because the nut pieces are still quite whole, but it's very, very fine. And you can use, I wouldn't introduce peanuts at all for that first year, maybe even 2 years. It's not an ideal nut. Things like almonds, raw cashews, raw Brazil nuts, macadamia nuts, hazelnuts, they're fine blended in very small quantities occasionally for little children. But as I say, try and avoid them for that first year. But we've had no problems with the grandchildren. Stephen's now 5 and he's literally grown up grabbing that first shake out of our hands. And he comes to me before he goes to school to have his shake because he says his mother doesn't make the shake as nice as I do. Because I love that. And now when I was traveling like this, I got all, Marie-Claire, you've got to make sure he has his shake. You can't leave it out. And some mornings he says to me, Mia, he doesn't call me Granny, he calls me Mia. That's just his name he made up. You need to keep me some more shake. I want some after school. And he walks, literally when you pick him up from school, he says, where's my shake? He wants another glass of that. And that can keep him going. And he's a very, very active little boy. So it's an interesting thing to try because you don't feel very full from it, but it has very sustainable, keeps your blood sugar very, very stable.
And it's just pure fruit and nuts. You don't
No,
add
no, soya milk. I don't put bananas with the nuts because they don't digest very well together. If you're going to have a banana shake, I leave nuts out. It's either nuts or banana, not both. And that's it.